Hey everybody, David R. Becker here with Becker Art, and today I want to talk to you about brushes. Yeah, if you see a bunch of stuff I have on here, these are all my, I say these are my brushes, but actually a lot of stuff that I find around the house or in the garage or in garage sales, and that are not actually brushes I'm using as you think of brushes like you're using my regular ones during the week. Like I have 6 brushes that are my go-to brushes that I'm painting with most of the time, but these are brushes I'm talking about that I made, and some I just use for a certain a way of using it on the paper to make a certain kind of object or like feathers or texture. And so I'm going to show you a few of these brushes and how to make them and also how to use them. And so one of them, there used to be a brush in the market. I'm not sure if they still are, but they used to be called funny brushes. They're basically rubber band brushes. And so a lot of times what I do is I get a bunch of rubber bands, and you can do this yourself. Just take a bunch of rubber bands and I'm putting it on like this, and just all different sizes, thinner, thicker. And then what I do is I kind of take them, put them together like this. And you can actually do this really quickly with maybe like even a clip. You can take like a clip like this and just clip them all together. You can do that and then just cut them. And or you can take another rubber band and just wrap around them. Just go like this and wrap around and around and around until you get them all. And I used to do this when with the braces. When my kids had braces, I used to take those little rubber bands and put them around there because this is a little bit big, so I have to wrap it more and more. But this is gonna be kind of like for doing leaves and on a tree. And I'm not gonna have it put into like a tube or anything. I'm just gonna use it almost like this, and then I'll take a scissors and I'll just cut in here and I'll just make it all even, right? And so I'm gonna take it and just cut it like this and cut them all off, and then just kind of make them even like a brush. So see it, and then what you're gonna do is go in here and just cut them all out open so they're all straight, and then you're gonna just do like this, and this will become a rubber band brush, just like those brushes that you can buy. They used to be called funny brushes, but I just use it like this. And so you can see, I'll dip it into water out of the picture here, but I'm just gonna dip into water, and then now I have a little bit of paint on them, and look at how you can get. Oh, you don't even see that. Let me get rid of this stuff here. And so you just put it into water, put it on your palette, take your palette, and then just dab it down, and look at this beautiful texture you get, right? It could be leaves, it could be any kind of texture. You could do it in a wash, and there you can see a little bit better. But see how I'm just going down like this, and you can just keep on tapping, and that's you have a little bit of a rubber band brush. And how long did it take me to make that? Like about not even a minute. So, and then you can trim it the way you want, and now this will be going into my toolbox and my art box, and I just use it for that. Another thing I was taught by, I forgot who the artist was that told me about these ugly brushes. I call them ugly brushes. These bristle brushes, and the more they're used, like I used to use them for my paint parties when I used to do paint parties for those paint parties that I was doing. But these are great, and the older they are and the more wear they are, the better they are. And what some people do is, and I do this to my some of my brushes too, is I take scissors and go into them like this and cut into them, so that you make it a little bit. I forgot who the artist was that showed me this. Either John Lovett or I think it was John Lovett who did. And also he used a smaller one. Actually, he gave us one. Bjorn Bernstrom was the other guy. I thought maybe that they came from him, but I think it was John Lovett. But he also take these half inch one, or these. This is a half inch. This is a 1 inch one, and they just cut into them, and so that you get a really neat look also for texture. Basically, you put in the water, take your paint, and then look at, you can just kind of make grasses. You can make grasses. Let me just get this out of the way. You can make grasses. You can make texture like this, same thing like that. So you can just make texture. So again, these are ugly brushes, and you can cut into them and get some texture. Basically, when I'm doing these brushes, I get a certain kind of texture or feather look. Like this is when you're grass look, and you then take your brushes and test them and see what you can do with them, with really light washes, really thick washes with a lot of paint in there, with just water type of paint, tinted kind of thing. So those are those. These are, you can get them at Ace Hardware, Menards, Home Depot. You know, you can get these kind of brushes for literally almost next to nothing, 50 cents or something, 90 cents. So those are those. These are the brushes. Then there's also, you know, a fan brush. This is a cheap fan brush. This is bristle brush, but again, you can use it for different things, like making feathers, making grasses, or do like Mr. Bob Ross and make your pine trees. You know, you can make your little pine trees and you know, look at that. So you just go in there, make some pine trees. And I'm just doing this on a regular board, so it's not watercolor paper. But this shows you how you can make texture. So that's a fan brush, right? And so again, these are bristle brushes. Then you have the hake brush. The hake brush you can use in so many different ways. Most people want to use it for softening edges, which I usually do. So you wet the surface and you just kind of go on top of it with the dry. And I learned that also from, I think that was John Lovett also. And so he had taken the brush, a hake brush, and would just go over with water. He wouldn't wet it. We would never wet the goat hair hake brush. He'd always just use it, wet the surface of the paper, and then just go over it to soften the edges. And they make brushes that look like they're cut into, like this brush right here. Look at how it looks like it's cut into the brush. You know, and so again, I'm not sure what you use it for, but you test it. You test out your brushes and figure out what you can do with them. You know, like this has a really weird thing that maybe, you know, same thing. It's make lines, you know, because it's kind of like maybe that's what you use it for. Anything to make lines and like grasses or, you know, you find something else to do with it. You know, so you have to take a scrap sheet of paper, fill up your palette with some paints and stuff, and just go at it and try to see like what happens if I just tap it down with this brush and all the different things. What if I kind of go like this? What if I scrub with it? You know, so all the things you want to do with it. And that's especially when you get these plastic brushes that are just plastic, like a squeegee. You know, you can take and put some paint on there and squeegee it on. You know, right? You can just squeegee on. And look at that, was just like a tint. That was a tint of color. And so you just go in there and I can just use that for like more of a squeegee. And squeegeeing, depending on the kind of paper you're using, it's going to get different textures and stuff. So these I got at a garage sale, I think, and there's two of them here. See, these are just rubber. These are just rubber, and you kind of like use them to push your paint around. It's not so much that you're gonna make little lines with it, but maybe you could. You know, you never know. So you have to decide and practice with these things so you can see what you can get. See, look at it. I can make lines with them. I can rub things around. I can push things and use it like a squeegee. You know, so those are squeegee brushes. Then of course there's a toothbrush, and that's always many different artists use it different ways, and most people use it for like putting on your thumb and then getting texture. You know, getting a texture, and look at that, how the texture just floats right there. You can scrub with it. You know, so what is it that you want to use it with? This is one I just recently did. Is I took a regular paintbrush that was kind of like bad. It had dried in the tip, and so I took my my scissor and cut into it, and look at how bad it is now. So it's not flat, it's not like that, but look at how great a job it does for giving you texture. I'll just grab some paint here. I mean, look at the different textures you can get with it. You can rub it, and this is probably for bigger paintings, but you got to try things. You got to try different things and what you can get with those. You know, and this is all texture. It's mostly about texture. Excuse me. And also when you're putting down a wash and you're pulling things out, pushing things in, taking thicker paint, thinner paint, you know, what can you do with this brush? You know, and so this is also one you can probably go like this and soften things later on. And again, I'm doing this on a cardboard, so it's not going to be it's going to be the same as you would see on a piece of paper, right? And I know they have all, like there's the rubber band brush, remember, don't forget the rubber band brush. But now I bought a bunch of these Chinese brushes, and they're very inexpensive. No brand name, they're just, you know, from, I think I got them on Amazon. But I don't use them like normal, like I would use my brushes, because they're kind of mop brushes. And so like this, look at this huge one. And so I don't use it like a mop brush. Like, as long as people like to use these brushes as painting their surface, I like to get texture with these brushes. I like to spatter with them. You know, this one's great for spattering because you can get a lot of pigment in there, a lot of water, and look at, you can get some really cool, you know, spatter going. And I'm a big spatter artist that loves to put spatter on their things, so that's what I usually use this for it. But look at the texture you can get with the grasses and stuff. You know, you can really get that with these brushes. But I don't like mop brushes so much when it comes to regular painting because that's just me. There's a lot of artists who use a mop brush for the whole painting. I tend to find that they pick up too much water, and I don't like when they bend and they stay bent. Like I want my nylon brushes to come right back to straight up and down, like with a regular brush. You know, when you're using one of my six brushes, but these are just nylons, right? And so when I push down on it, when I bend it, see when I bend it, it comes right back to forward. And when you do that to one of these brushes, these Chinese brushes, and they were very inexpensive. You can get them really, really cheap. For this whole set, I think ended up being like $1 a brush. So, so like if I bend this, it stays bent. See how it just stays bent? And I don't like that. So I use these for other things. I use them to make texture, and I try different things with them. So that's what you have to do with your brushes. When you get a new brush, don't just think that it's going to work out just like your other brushes, a round or a flat. But look at all these brushes. None of these are a round or a flat. They're just kind of a flat brush, but I go into them, and so I use them differently than they're actually made for, right? And so, I've never tried that with these brushes, but I could probably cut these down to really thin or really short, and then it would be kind of bristly because then it would be harder because they're shorter or whatever. But for that, I have my oil painting brushes. I thought I had them right here. Yeah, so I have some oil painting brushes that or acrylic brushes, and they're stiffer, right? And so that I use for rubbing out things with. And so have fun looking for stuff in the house that you can make a brush with. The rubber bands. I've seen people use like sponges, and they paint with the sponge. They take a small piece of the sponge and really kind of make it really rough, and then they paint with it because they're trying to get texture. So it's all about what you're doing with your brush. But learn with your brush. Learn how to use your brush, and don't do it while you're doing a painting. Do it like I did right here. Excuse me. Take a sheet of paper and then just have fun with it. That's how I learned my one little trick about doing pine needles. You have to remember that. It's when I'm doing my pine needles, I bend my brush back, and I use the back part of the brush. Let me just get some really dark color here so you can see what I'm doing. So I bend the whole thing over, so I'm kind of pushing, and I'm bending using the back bristles to get the look of pine needles. You know, so I should have a new sheet of paper here, but let me just do it on here. You'll see real quick. So you kind of bend it back. And I learned that by just taking a scrap sheet of paper and having fun with this brush. Because I was thinking, what can I do with this brush? Can I make circles? Can I make, what happens if I tap it? Or if I spatter? Or if I just tap it down on the paper like this? What happens when you do things with your brush? There are no instructions like this when you go to the store about how to use the brush. So you have to learn how to use your brush on your own and figure out what you can do with that brush. And sometimes they're not even brushes. Sometimes they're a toothbrush. I guess it is a brush, but it's a toothbrush. It's not made for painting, watercolor, but we can use these things to help us do some kind of texture or some kind of thing on your object, like feathers or grasses like that. All right? So that's all about getting into your house, going cleaning up the house, and looking what you can find for make as a brush. All right? Have some fun, and I'll see you on Thursday. Bye-bye.